Welcome into Sports Around the Bar, your favorite sports talk show. Are you good? You ready?
No.
Good, neither am I.
Let's just shut it down. We'll start back up in a minute.
Yeah, because we've never done that before. Welcome into the show, guys. We got a lot of football to talk about. It's crunch time again, Drew, even though we know more about these teams for the first time since week one, when I've been saying that, than we did before. Now we've got a pretty good idea who's going to the playoffs and who isn't.
You are a broken record.
No, I'm flipping it. Every week I was like, we're going to learn more about these teams. Now we know who they are, right? Except for a couple of them, we know who's going in.
We just don't know who's in what spot exactly.
But we do have a lot of action starting on Saturday. We've got a lot of weird kind of scheduling for a lot of these NFL games since the season's come to an end. They're going to conflict with a few of those bowl games, but for the most part, tomorrow's an NFL day.
Yeah.
We don't get that very often. 2 NFL days back to back. There's a reason to get up before noon.
It's actually 3 NFL games in a row.
I know. Did I say 2? I meant 3. I meant 2 days, 3 games tomorrow.
Well, no, 3 days because you got Monday night too.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Now, we're not watching Monday football, noon like we're talking about. But if you want to argue semantics, Drew, we'll argue semantics. Yes, 3 days back-to-back NFL football.
You guys do anything on Monday besides watch football?
It's exciting. Yeah, pretend to work. Other than that, no. Good to see you, Michael. Yep. Also, Ron, good to see you. He says, LSU, he's fired up about this college football playoff, and I would be too, especially if I got to match up against Oklahoma. When I'm looking at Clemson and Ohio State, that is definitely one of the 2 teams I wouldn't want to play in the first round. LSU has an easier ride, in my opinion, because they got to play the 4 seed and wound up as the number 1. Deservingly so, but still. Sorry, Sooners fans, but I think you're an easier team to play. I would rather play against the Sooners than any of these other teams in the college football playoff. Will, he says, and here comes more Winston hate from the hater. Which one of us is the Winston hater?
I think both of us now are.
Both of us?
Both of us.
Just depends on which one talked about Winston last.
Yeah.
But that's okay. That's okay. Again,
yeah.
We can start with that if you're ready.
Yeah, we could.
Let's start with the Texans and the Buccaneers playing at noon on a Saturday.
All right, that's it. Let's move on to the next game because there's nothing worth talking about.
Well, hold on. I think we do have something to talk about here, right? And that one thing...
I have so much hate flowing out of me. I can't even talk about it.
You can't even talk about it.
Yeah.
I mean, the Buccaneers could do my team a favor if they managed to beat the Texans today. That would give the Titans a win and get in scenario if they can somehow manage to beat the Saints, which isn't going to happen. But we can talk about that later. Let's talk about this game, though. Yeah. Honestly, I see this as a opportunity for the Buccaneers to close out a good win against what's going to be a playoff team more than likely. I think they've all but punched their ticket. I think there's mathematically 8 things that could happen where the Houston Texans don't wind up either with a wild card or winning the division. But for the most part, this is a wild card team, and I think they're pretty vulnerable to the type of football the Buccaneers are going to play.
Yeah, actually, Will, I'm actually going to talk about Winston, about how this is a game for him to show everyone in the world to kind of be quiet about him. This is a perfect game for him not to throw a turnover. This is a game where all of his weapons are gone. Mike Evans is out. Godwin is not going to play. This is going to be on Mike Evans against a weak secondary, a secondary that...
Evans is done for the year. Evans is done for the year.
That's what I said. Evans is already gone. He's done.
Godwin, sorry.
Godwin is not going to play this
I zoned you out. I thought you were saying this was an Evans game, and I was like, not going to be there.
No, Winston. And this is a chance for him to tear up a secondary that every team in the NFL is pretty much torn up. This is going to be a great opportunity for him, not to turn a ball over, to throw 3 to 4 touchdowns without his number 1 and number 2 option. This will be a huge game for him if he can do it. Problem is, and I think, to be honest with you, this is the most important statistic or comment. I can't talk.
Point.
Yeah, whatever. I'm lost in this world. The Texans have Will Fuller going on tonight, and when he plays, they win. If he was not playing, I'd probably give it to the Bucs. But the fact that Will Fuller is playing in this game, statistically, they win games. I think it's the Texans that win this game.
You think so? I agree. And let me say why. Because I think when you look at Tampa Bay, even though I love their matchup, if they had a couple of their dominant weapons out there, if they had Godwin or Mike Evans, if they had one of those two, going up against Houston and this diminished secondary that, even though stepped up against the Titans last week and played a pretty good game, has historically not been very good towards the back half of the season, I was going to say that despite a couple turnovers, I think Jameis Winston gets his 8th win of the year. With him gone and the defense kind of struggling, I think DeAndre Hopkins is going to do enough. I think Will Fuller's going to do enough. I think Watson's going to do enough. And I think this team for Houston's going to come in hungry to seal the deal and just win this game so that they're automatically going to go into the playoffs as the divisional winner. They still have something to play for, even if the Titans bomb out and lose, because since they beat Kansas City in the head-to-head, they could go take the 3 seed from them if something should happen to Kansas City in the last couple games of this year. So they have a lot to play for. This is a team that, even though they had a huge win and they're very likely to make the playoffs, still has something to play for, and I think the Texans still have just a little bit more firepower, a little bit more fight, a little bit more to this team than the Buccaneers do.
Will say Winston shall prove you wrong once again as we go 8-7. And Scott, good to see you, wants to know which Winston is going to show up, and Will answers that with the good one. He also said, look out for Spencer Chanel.
But saying the good one's going to show up, doesn't that admit that there's a bad Winston too? I'm teasing you, Will, but I will say this. At the very least, with the secondary and the shape that it's in, Winston needs to have a great game. I'm kind of with Andrew. I want to see a game where I don't care how many touchdowns you put on the board.
And it's going to be about him, too. His weapons are gone. His number 1 and number 2 option are gone. Mm-hmm. So this gives him an opportunity to say, hey, it's me.
Yeah. It's
not my receiving weapons. It's me. And in a secondary that is literally diminished of talent right now, everyone kind of knows it. Opportunity for him to not throw an interception and still throw for 300 and some yards and 4 touchdowns. If he can do that, I might quiet my talk a little bit.
But I also think it's a bit of a trap because, like I said, this secondary's been as bad as it's been. So even if Winston comes out, has a great game, throws for 3 touchdowns,
I don't care.
It's not like he's doing it against a great unit. And I understand what you're saying, but
that's not Winston's
It could very easily be the trap that he has this game, and then the Buccaneers are like, we'll keep him around.
4 touchdowns to we kind of paused. Hopefully we didn't go nowhere. Winston has thrown 4 touchdowns or 4 interceptions to bad secondaries too. Are we down?
It's always so much more fun the second time around, isn't it?
It is.
For whatever reason, we had a little bit of a Facebook hiccup there, but we should be back. Welcome back if you're in. Again, we were just talking about the Houston Texans versus Buccaneers game. It's our first one of the week. You were saying, Drew, about this team and about the Buccaneers that you think that Winston can have the type of game where he can prove some of his doubters wrong.
Hold on. I don't think he can. What I'm saying is this is the best opportunity.
Well, that's what I'm saying. When I say you think he can, you're saying this is the opportunity for Winston to prove some of the doubters wrong and have his elite kind of game. All I can say is it's a bit of a trap. It's a bit of a honey trap.
Yeah, and you also said, well, it's a secondary that no one's really giving any credit to. But let's not forget, Winston's thrown 4 interceptions at bad secondaries too. So I'm just saying it's not that he struggles against better secondaries. It's just,
which he does.
But I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is this is a great opportunity for him to quiet some of those talkers, haters, as Will puts it, to...
Welcome back, Sean. Thanks for coming back in.
To just, move on with his career. I mean, he has quite a lot of people, especially in that organization, to say, hey, man, maybe we're wrong about Winston. Maybe we should give him...
Good to see you, Michael. Thanks for coming back in.
Another 3 years. But you still had the issue with the turnovers. A game like this against a playoff caliber team with his weapons down, it's a time for him to shine, and he needs to take this opportunity. Do I think he can do it? I don't know. But with Will Fuller back in the Texans uniform playing this game, they win this game, Bucs lose. But that doesn't mean Winston can't shine still.
Sure, and I agree with that, and I think that's more important than the result for the Buccaneers at this point. Obviously, you're out of the playoffs, you're mathematically eliminated, you're basically just playing for pride, and for next year, I'm with you that he needs to put on the best performance he can for whatever team Winston is going to be playing on next year, whether it's the Buccaneers or whether another team's going to pick him up. But I'm also saying this is a bit of a trap. Just because somebody goes and bullies a bottom 3 secondary after injury in this league does not mean that he's going to have success going forward. You can't always look at it and say, oh, well, he had a great year week 16 as a GM, and, oh, well, we'll just sign him. We had a great – look how strong he was at the end of the year. You got to look at the talent he's going up against. I'm saying this game, more than anything, I think you need to take with a little bit of a grain of salt because you're not going to get to play these secondaries week in and week out, especially as you move into the playoffs like the Buccaneers I'm sure want to when you talk about them being close to a 500 team. This is going to be – a game that I think tricks a lot of GMs and everything in the league, where they're going to look at it and say, oh, Winston's a great player because he beat the Texans. Instead, they should be saying, Winston had a great week against the 30th ranked secondary.
Yeah. Sean, you have a Merry Christmas too, man, and enjoy Florida for us. We'll be here in the cold Tennessee. Scott says Winston is wild. He is a less accurate Brett Favre with more picks. Yeah, I think that's a pretty accurate statement, but that also doesn't mean, and I'm defending Jameis Winston, that you can't win with Jameis Winston as long as he dials back some of those turnovers. Because it's not just interceptions, guys. It's fumbles, too.
Yeah, and the other thing about Brett Favre is he would have bad interceptions, and then when you got in the clutch, he would throw the amazing touchdowns. It seems like Winston does it in the clutch sometimes, but he's not necessarily as clockwork as Brett Favre was, which is why everyone kind of respects Favre as a gunslinger. And they're like, oh yeah, despite the interceptions, he always seemed to get it done when it came to crunch time. Winston does it sometimes, but he doesn't have that same kind of clutch factor where always the fourth quarter comes around, I know I made some mistakes, but it's time to start playing better football. You got that out of Brett Favre. You don't always get that out of Jameis Winston, and that's why the Buccaneers lose some games.
Justin, good to see you, man. I'm glad you're here. Will says, less Winston hate, y'all. Get a cookie and a beer. It's a 211. Man, it's you can call it hate all you want, man.
And yes, more picks than Favre. Career-wise, on track to beat him too.
You can call it hate all you want, man. I just think it's facts.
You just got to be real sometimes, and you can't win in this league turning the ball over that many times, regardless of how you do with your other possessions.
I think you can win with Winston if he dialed the turnovers back.
Yes,
because there's no doubt this guy's talented.
But that's what our biggest complaint has always been, right?
Right, and I'm just trying to help Will out here because Will just wants to call us haters. I'm trying to give him credit. It's like this. You're right. This guy can win you games and possibly take you to the playoffs, but you're not going to do it until he turns back to the turnovers. Plain and simple. Plain and simple.
And so does Scott. He says that's why he says Winston gets the yards, but not the wins. And I'm with you. And who knows? Maybe you put him in the perfect environment where you fix the offensive line, the running backs play better, or you get a better one. You fix the secondary, the defense starts playing really well, and you talk about this being a team like the Saints that's very close to elite with Jameis Winston, and maybe some of the turnovers dry up. But how many? First off, do you trust Tampa Bay and their front office to put that together? I don't. After all these years, I mean, pretty much since Gruden left, they have not been able to put together close to a playoff caliber team. And my other point is that's just such a rare thing that you can't count on the team being perfect year in and year out. I mean, the Packers haven't been perfect and they won Super Bowls. The Saints, when they won Super Bowls, weren't a perfect team. The Denver Broncos, another great example of that. When they won with Peyton Manning, they were not anywhere near a perfect team. They barely could play offense at all. It was just they had a great defense. The odds of that happening when you turn the ball over go significantly through the floor. You can't rely on it.
Cass, good to see you. He says, Merry Christmas, y'all. Thank you, man. Merry Christmas to you back. He says, Winston is a decent quarterback, but it seems that he just loses track of his surroundings. Granted, out an O-line needs to be fixed, and honestly, he thinks Winston can stay as long as he is
start stepping his game
up, which we're talking about eliminating the turnovers.
What do coaches always say? Turnovers win games, right?
Yes.
What has Jameis Winston been the worst at since he's entered the NFL? Turnovers. Yeah. So, again, the yards almost don't matter. The touchdowns almost don't matter. When you're consistently turning the ball over, the good teams are going to beat you. All right, so we're both taking the Texans. We kind of got stuck on this one a little bit, but that's okay.
No, that's fine. I do think we need to spend some time on the Texans. Not that the Bucs aren't important, but we all know that their postseason is dry. This Texans team going into a game that they have a very tough 3 last games and just beat the Titans, a big win for them. They're already putting it past them. You got someone like the Bucs in front of them, which is not an easy pushover. And then you got the Titans again next week. How realistic is a team like this with all the issues and injury? I know they're talking about J.J. Watt coming back, but you got the inconsistent play of the secondary. You got 0 pass rush at this point, and even if J.J. Watt comes back, is this team even going to be that much better getting after the quarterback?
With J.J. Watt with a torn pec, I don't know.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Then you got Carlos Hyde at running back, getting a little bit older, showing some flash this year. Is this team a team that is scary to someone like the 3rd or 4th seed that they could be facing, or a wild card team if they won their division? Because when I look at this team, I feel like this might be the team you want to face in the postseason.
It's hard to say. And the reason I say that is because I think a team like Buffalo or Pittsburgh, if they're the team that makes the playoffs, or even Tennessee that has its own flaws, could drop a game to Houston. They play an interesting style of football where they're able to throw. Carlos Hyde plays well in some games where he's able to run. I think he's closing in on 1,000 yards or just crossed the line for 1,000 yards. So he's had a good year on top of it. The defense, even though it's not elite and they've had a bunch of injuries that have made them that way, this is still a team that could win a round or 2 in the playoffs. I think the only team that's looking at them and saying, I'm not worried about them, should be the Ravens. I think outside of them, I mean, the Chiefs have already lost to them, and I know it's the regular season, and the Chiefs don't always get up for those games. And nobody does. Nobody gets up for the Patriots are the classic example of that. For the Texans going in there, it's the Super Bowl. For the other team, it's Week 13. So I think they could realistically still beat the Patriots. I think they could beat pretty much everybody in the AFC. Is the NFC going to be trembling in their boots if they make it to the Super Bowl? Probably not. But outside of the Ravens, yeah, I think just about everybody has some concerns with playing the Houston Texans.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next game.
The Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots, man. This was I don't want to say a bad game the first time around because it was incredibly tense. Both defenses took this one over and absolutely it took a special teams touchdown for the Patriots to pull out in front.
Yeah.
Do you think that happens again? Are we in for another 15-12 kind of affair?
All of it's pointing to yes. This is what it's going to be. You're talking about arguably two of the better defense this year. You're talking about arguably the two best secondaries in the NFL. Everything's pointing to another kind of low-scoring, nail-biting affair. But I just have this feel that this game's going to get out of hand offensively in the sense of putting up lots of points. I'd like to consider this game being close. I feel like we're going to be looking more at the 20 marks. I think you're going to see a little bit more. Let's remember that was the first time they faced each other. These are division rivals. They get to face each other again. Usually games don't repeat themselves, even though the winners can. You don't see the game statistically repeating itself. They kind of know what they want to do on defense, so they're going to try to change it up on offense to try to get them off their feet. I think that, like I said, I think this is going to be a higher scoring affair, but I am going to change who I think is going to win this game. I actually think the Bills are going to beat the Patriots this week. I think this is tomorrow. I think this is going to be a very close game. I like to believe that Josh Allen will not throw it to the side that Gilmore's going to be on. You're going to just...
Isn't that the game plan? Just don't throw over there.
Don't throw over there.
Yeah.
And screen pass. Mm-hmm. Just not to that side.
Yeah.
Just get it quickly to your playmakers on the outside where you don't have to sit there and put the ball up in the air where possibly that defense who loves to turn the ball over for the Patriots are going to be out there. Quick, easy passes, run the ball. I think the Bills have a great opportunity to beat a team that has dominated them in the past.
I love the pick, but I got to go the other direction. Again, I think this is close to a coin toss. I think both of these teams, I think the Bills are more talented. But I also think Bill Belichick has done a great job against young quarterbacks in the past. I think the defense is going to come up with just enough to frustrate a guy like Josh Allen. And then the offense, I don't know what it's even going to look like in New England. I mean, they have not been very good this year. They haven't been able to run. They haven't really been able to throw very well. This is going to be on the defense and the special teams, as well as the field position battle for the Patriots again, just like it was the first time these two teams matched up. I just see it happening again. I'll go the opposite direction. I think this turns into like 17-14 Patriots again, kind of like we saw the first time. I think the Bills, even though they have a lot to play for and they have something to prove, sometimes all that energy and all that kind of excitement can go against you, and then when things start to go bad, it all falls apart around you. I'm not saying that this turns into a blowout, but I think the Bills just won't have the answer to beat them offensively like they need to. I mean, the Patriots' defense is very good. This one being in Foxborough with all the record that Bill Belichick's had against these young quarterbacks, I just can't do it, Drew. I can't bet against them.
Well, Michael's saying that 17-14 Bills, and he says, Damon, the cheater, I can't say.
The Cheatriots.
The Cheatriots, that's what I was going for, will always win. Good to see you, Damon. Frank, good to see you too, man. Merry Christmas. Cass says, I would honestly like to see the Bills win. And Jonathan, good to see you. I think they have an opportunity to win. You got to remember, it was one special teams play away from them winning.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't do anything offensively. I'm telling you right now, I don't see that happening. I get why everyone's like, these are great defenses. They're going to do well. But these are division rivals. They're going to change things up. They want to put up more points. They know it was an issue last time. I think both teams realize that 10, 14 points are not going to win this game.
Yeah, 16 might, though. I agree with you to some point. Again, this is the end of the season. We've got 15 weeks worth of work under our belt. Well, the first time they played was week 3? Something along those lines. So, yeah, you're going to have more rhythm. Offensively, everything's going to be clicking. Usually it takes a couple weeks for most offenses to really hit their stride. I've said this about Buffalo for a long time. I just don't feel like their offense has the top gear it's going to take to beat a team that's this good. And maybe they pull one off here during the regular season, and then they go into the playoffs with the home field advantage, which would be crazy. But maybe they do find a way to make that happen. I don't know that Buffalo has the offensive firepower to keep up in 2019's playoffs. It will be 2020 here when they're playing the games, but the 1920 season is what I was trying to say. Chris, good to see you, man. Also, Scott says that it seems like Brady and the Patriots have aged 10 years this season. It just kind of saw like that last year, and then everyone was like, oh, Patriots are done. Dynasty's over. And then it's like they started the car after that and started playing a little bit better. So we'll see what happens. I'm with you. How much gas is left in the tank for the Patriots? Because this year it looks like they're closer to empty than they've ever been before.
Sean's saying he's agreeing with me. He says he's going to pick the Buffalo Bills tomorrow, not New England. Surprise, surprise, being a Buffaloes fan. He says he believes the score could be 34-12. He's saying a blowout for the Bills.
Have the Bills scored 34 points in a single game?
Yes.
Once, I think.
Well,
that game that you're like, they scored 40 was actually like 37 because I looked it up.
It's
I forget,
40.
It was against the Dolphins.
We round up here.
Especially against Miami. That's a little optimistic. For this kind of defense, I don't think
it's
you can,
defense.
if you do, you can feel great about the team. But I don't think you need to put 34 points on the board to beat the Patriots. I think 22 will get you there.
I think one of these teams will get to 20 points. And that's why I said get out of hand, because you don't
It's out of hand.
You don't see these defenses allowing
Yes.
20 points consistently through the week. I do believe one of them. I'm going to go for the Bills, but by all means, it would not surprise me that the Patriots win this game.
Let's talk about the Rams and the 49ers next. This game, do the Rams get put out of the playoffs with this one? Is that it? Do we shut the door?
Yeah.
It's time?
Yeah, I think the 49ers were embarrassed. I know that the Rams had a kind of a butt whooping as well against the Cowboys, but I think it was more the fact the Cowboys just put a game together than it was more that the Rams flopped on one. But when you look at the Niners, where you're talking about the number one seed, something where you can shush kind of a lot of all the other people that are sitting there saying the Niners aren't the real deal, even because they're still out there.
Yes.
I mean, you got to remember, this is just one season of success, because if you look at last year, they were nowhere near where they are now. So, yeah, I do. I believe that this is a game that you see the Rams lose their ticket to the postseason, and you see the 49ers shoot for that one seed as best as they can.
I agree. I think the 49ers are going to dominate this one. They got, I don't want to say spanked, but they got upset last week against the Falcons, a team that by all rights they should have been able to just run over with this running attack. They're going to go home, and they're going to play a division rival, and that stadium is going to be loud. Short of the Rams coming out and scoring 14 or 17 unanswered points right away, this game is going to the 49ers. The Rams cannot afford to keep this close. We need old Sean McVay to show up. We need this old offensive line to show up and protect Jared Goff. Unless they score quick and score early, the Rams don't have a chance in this one. If they hang around, that atmosphere is going to be crazy because everyone knows what's on the line.
Yes.
The 49ers have not been good for years.
Yeah.
This is going to be a madhouse out there.
The issue is
by the
Cooper
Bay.
Kupp has not been part of this offense. He has been literally nowhere the last 5 weeks of this season, and you've seen it through the Rams struggling offensively.
And more than that, or just as important, I think we've seen the regression of Jared Goff under pressure.
And you're also getting Richard Sherman back.
Right.
Which is huge because the way he's been playing in that secondary, it is a night and day difference with him out there. Let's remember, he was not out there last week.
And to quote one of your terms, he's a vocal leader of this defense. He's a vocal leader. He's the guy that you want to set the tone for this team. Going into this, everybody knows the Saints are on your heels. Everybody knows the Seahawks are the team that you're going to have to battle here going forward. I think the 49ers got that little trap game out of the way last week. They're going to go into this one a little butthurt.
Right.
They're going to go in here ready to tear up a team like the Rams. Is anyone taking the Rams? We're taking 49ers, is that right?
Yeah, we are. Michael's saying the Niners are pissed after that Falcons game, and they will come out fired up. Go Niners.
More importantly, I think it's important to see how the team responds. We want to see them come out and really just put it on the Rams team that's been very up and down this year, and it's a division rival. Again, you were embarrassed, kind of like you were talking about, Michael. I want to see them just lay the wood to the Rams here. I want to see like a 20-point victory, and then we'll be talking about this is the best team in the NFC that even teams like the Saints need to be afraid of.
Chris says the 49ers will fight against the Rams and try to get the number one seed back and try to win it all in Seattle. and Damien, I sure enjoy the laugh, says he hopes the Cowboys win the Super Bowl so they can keep Garrett. And then, of course, laughing emojis right after that.
Are they even making the playoffs? I mean, if they lose this one to the Eagles, things get a lot dimmer because that will give the Eagles the tiebreaker.
I mean, we're not to that game, but I don't like either team, but
somebody's got to win it.
The Cowboys should win that game.
Let's move on to Sunday. Usually we get to Sunday games faster than this, but again, more action on Saturday. It starts at noon our time, 1 o'clock for the East Coast, with the Jaguars and the Falcons. And I know what everyone's going to say. This game does not matter. But for two teams at the bottom of the NFL, I will say this. This game does not matter. At least not to me, anyway. I mean, outside of being a fan of these teams, they're not playing for much beyond the fact of Dan Quinn's trying to hang on to a job. I think it's pretty clear that most of the Jags front office is going to get cleared out in the offseason. Do you see Doug Marrone sticking around?
Yeah, I don't know if he's gone, man. I think this team's
quit on him multiple times.
You say that they're not playing for anything, but I think both teams will be playing for their head coach's job.
Do the Jaguars want their head coach to stick around?
Well, they got rid of Coughlin. They're sitting there going, okay, is Coughlin the issue? If we get rid of him, can Marrone kind of rally this team around him? Because with Coughlin over behind him, like the evil empire, whatever his name is from Star Wars.
It just came out. You got to hit the landing. Emperor Palpatine's what you're looking for.
Yeah, that guy.
Are you even a Star Wars fan?
No, I'm not, obviously. Dude, I got football in my brain. I can't think about Star Wars right now. Anyways, this is an opportunity for both of these teams to win games for their head coach. If they don't want Marrone to be there, then maybe it will show in this game. But there's no doubt about it. The Falcons are playing for Dan Quinn's job. That's why I believe the Falcons are going to win this game.
And you get Gardner Minshew also playing for his job. Some of the Jacksonville players playing for their job. But again, with all this blowing up in the media about the Jaguars and their mistreatment of their players, or whatever you want to call it, where they've been too hard on their players and they've treated them maybe not to the same standard that a lot of other teams in the NFL do. I don't know. I don't know what team we're going to get out of either one of these squads, to be honest. They're both just kind of coin tosses. I guess I'll side with you because I think the Falcons on paper are the better team. But the Jaguars did have a big comeback victory against the Raiders last week.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll go Falcons.
And during the offseason, we picked the Jags to win this game.
We did, and we loved the Falcons and still gave it to the Jaguars. But then again, Jacksonville had its perennial meltdown towards week 10 of every season where the players are like, forget this. I'm done. We're not in the playoffs. I don't know. I'll just bet on the meltdown. They had a big win against Oakland last week. They managed to come back from, I think, 16-3 on the road in the final game at the Black Hole out there in Oakland. I just don't see it happening again. There's another road game. They're going to play in Atlanta. I just see Atlanta finding a way to put, I guess, more points on the board than Jacksonville. But that's not that tough, right? Everybody can do that.
Right. The Falcons should win this game.
They need to. For Dan Quinn, I think.
They're already playing for Dan Quinn.
And that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. This dropping a game like this towards the end of the season, if you're Arthur Blank, maybe you're starting to say, ooh, it is time for a new head coach. Because we have to at least beat the Jaguars.
Well, yeah.
And that's what I'm saying.
Even if they come out and lose this game, it's like a 24 or 27-24 scenario and lost it, I think Dan Quinn's safe. But if it's like 24-3, where they just don't do anything.
And Gardner Minshew's twirling the mustache on the sideline.
I think there's going to be an issue with Dan Quinn's job. Damien, again, always with the laughable comment, says, Jason Garrett is the best coach in Dallas, just like Matt Patricia is the best coach in Detroit. I'm about to give up on talking tonight.
Are we being too hard on Matt Patricia?
Dude, he's fine.
Jason Garrett, sure. But and I know Patricia's not had a lot of success so far, but what about that roster if you looked at it and said, it's time for the Super Bowl, baby?
Well, he's going to get one more year for sure.
I absolutely agree. I think he should. I think 3 years is right about the time where you need to start evaluating your coach.
Well, they've gone out and said they're keeping him, so.
And they should. Yeah. They absolutely should. I'm 100% with you. He's been playing without Matt Stafford for 6, 7, 8 weeks. So, how many teams survive without their starting quarterback? Unless your name's Mike Tomlin, not many.
Well, you say survive.
Limp by, get by, whatever. I don't know. How many teams thrive without their starting quarterback? Let me ask you that. The Titans and the Steelers. Other than them, it's a pretty short list, Drew. There's not a whole lot of teams that can lose a quarterback and still be a good team.
All right, let's go on to the next game. The Baltimore Ravens go on the road against the Cleveland Browns. During the offseason, we picked the Browns to win this game.
Well, we kind of flipped it. The Browns won the first meeting. I don't know how, but they did.
Yeah.
Also, do they win the second meeting? This one's at home. I mean, you get the Ravens that maybe come in with the gloves down a little bit. They're cruising. Do you think they can kind of keep the pedal to the metal and try to just get that first seed locked up, especially if the Patriots find a way to drop this game this week?
I don't see it, dude. I just don't see the Browns winning. With all the controversy, everything that's going on there, the Ravens, I get it. You know, the gloves could be down. They're sitting there looking into the postseason, but the number one seed isn't spoken for. They don't have it. They lose this game, Patriots win. They have a chance of not being the number one seed.
Yeah, I agree.
Kansas City could still be the number one seed. Unlikely, but could happen.
So you're saying the Ravens just come out firing? I think so too. Yes. I think if Myles Garrett's playing and you get a healthy Browns team, maybe we see an upset. But right now, I can't see it. Again, they just announced that Freddie Kitchens is expected to return as the head coach of the Cleveland Browns, which normally I'd be okay with. But when you look at the way the season spiraled out of control for the Browns, I wouldn't be against firing a first-time head coach and just saying, hey, yeah, we made a mistake on this one. Okay? I mean, like, if he's been established, he's had success, and things are this bad, maybe then he sticks around. But as a first-time head coach, to let things run this wild and have the players constantly just, like, bashing everybody and everything in the media 24/7, it's obvious there's a lack of control. And even though that now his job is safe, I think they're going to come into this one like, doesn't matter. What are we playing for? Who cares? Even with a team like the Ravens that, I mean, this used to be the Browns. They should hate them, and I don't think it'll be... none of that's going to be enough for the Browns to even put up a fight in this one. It's going to be Ravens all the way.
Yeah, no, I agree. And Ian says hopefully the Browns sweep the Ratbirds. Baltimore loses the last two going into the playoffs.
And Jonathan says the Eagles are going to pull out the dog mask this weekend to make a run. I think the dog mask should have been out for the Eagles, though, right? I mean, how many times have we looked at this team and we're like, it's time, here we go. They're gonna crush the Redskins. They're gonna crush the Giants, and I know they won both of those games, but man. Ooh, I don't know. It's time for the mask to come out at the very least.
John says the Steelers get in. Look out. Defense wins championships.
But I'll say this, John. You got the Ravens week 17. And I know the Ravens are going to be going on bye more than likely, especially if they win this game against Cleveland. You're probably not going to get them resting. Can the Steelers beat a team like the Ravens with a backup quarterback? I know they have a great defense, but the Ravens' defense towards the back half of the season has been really tough too. If they drop one of these AFC games and the Titans find a way to beat the Texans in Week 17, who might also not be playing for a whole lot, and might look at that as their bye week, can the Steelers pull two in a row? I don't know. I don't love them against the Jets, if that makes you feel it. Say what you will about Mike Tomlin and everything. The Jets stopped the run, or at least they have. And guess what? The Steelers' offense has been pretty much since week 2.
Yeah,
it's been a running attack.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, it has.
We'll go into that game a little bit later, but for right now, the Ravens, I think, are going to comfortably win this game and then get to look at next week and say, we get the Steelers, we can potentially keep them out of the playoffs, and then go on by afterward. We're going to keep playing hard. I guess we'll find out.
Chris says it's crazy that Browns beat the Ravens earlier in the season and the Niners came close to beating Lamar Jackson. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's crazy how the world turns during the
Divisional
NFL season.
Games, man. Divisional games.
Let's go to the next game. The New Orleans Saints go on the road here to Nashville to face the Tennessee Titans.
Adoree Jackson ruled out, cornerback for the Titans, starting cornerback. It's going to be real thin again.
You got the new addition of the secondary and the Saints.
And the Titans again. Tremaine Brock has played really well for the Cardinals. Very highly graded corner for this year. Even though he's not a household name, has played well. Maybe this is the third week he's going to be on the field for the Titans. Maybe this is the week he steps up. But I'm going to be honest with you, Drew. Both of these teams are pretty beat up, and both of these teams are probably looking at the schedule like, why do we have to play these guys right now? At the very least, the Saints are going to be playing for the first seed in the NFC. I expect them to play incredibly hard. But sometimes you get like that game on Monday night they had against the Colts where everything's perfect and you come into the next week and things don't run as smoothly. I'm hoping that happens because otherwise the Saints are going to steamroll the Titans again. I think this offensive line isn't tough enough to stop the pass rush that even without Marcus Davenport should still be in the backfield, should still be harassing Ryan Tannehill pretty much all day. On the other side, the Saints have lost 3 offensive linemen last week. They're going to be significantly banged up. The question is, can this Titans defensive front, which has been a little disappointing these past few weeks, can they reestablish themselves and get after Drew Brees quick enough to where he's not just going to be able to pick apart this secondary?
John's saying the Saints will stomp the Titans.
And John might be right.
I'm picking the Saints to win this game, but I do think there's a possibility that these Titans win this game. You put the ball in Derrick Henry's hands often and throughout the whole entire game.
Well, that's the thing. Derrick Henry's shaken up on top of it. He's still dealing with a severe hamstring injury.
But if you ain't ready to roll, then don't play because you should get the rock at least 30 times in this game.
Well, it's one of those things that
this is what you need to win this game. This is what you need. You need him to win it. You cannot lose this game and then go into Houston and lose that game.
I mean, if you listen to it, all the analytics guys would agree with you, and they would say, oh, well, he's coming up on a contract. You have the chance to let him go. But the other hand, you could say, we plan to re-sign Derrick Henry. We expect him to be our running back for the next few years. Does this one game warrant putting him out there with an injury?
Yes, because we're talking about a playoff berth.
Isn't that what we paid Deion Lewis all that money for?
Yeah, well,
he hasn't performed. I agree. And here's the question, though. Are you getting the best running back with Derrick Henry carrying the ball 30 times in this game? I'm going to disagree with you and say no, because again, with as bad as the hamstring injury is, and watching him, he doesn't look like the same guy. If you watch him again in the Houston game, if you watch him in the back half of the Raiders game, you're like, Derrick Henry is messed up, but he's just managing to stay on the field or through sheer force of will. Sometimes guys need to be protected from themselves. He practiced again this week. I think you're going to see a full go of Derrick Henry. The Titans are going to be of your mindset. Put him out there. Playoffs are on the line, and I understand that. But, on the other hand, this game, not incredibly important to the Titans.
Yes,
and let me tell you why. Even with a loss here.
Yes, they can lose it and beat the Texans and still be in it. But you're not guaranteed to beat the Texans. They just beat you.
Yes, but they'll be playing for considerably less because when the Titans lose this one, the Texans will have won the division. No contest at that point.
Yeah.
The Titans could beat the Texans, and the Steelers could lose one of their last two, and then the Titans take over.
But they don't want their division rivals.
But they also want to rest up before they go into the playoffs. Is the thing.
They don't want their division rivals in the playoffs.
And that's true. But then again, like I said, you get into Week 17, and you're like, Deshaun Watson's taking some hits this year, and I really still don't love this offensive line. How hard are we really trying to play a division rival in Week 17?
He will not rest.
They could.
He will not rest.
But I think you might consider it. I really do.
No, it's not going to happen.
He's young, so there's more likelihood that they play it. This is not the
number 1 and number 2 seeds. These are
no more important. If it's the 1 or 2 seed, then you definitely play because you don't want 2 weeks off and get that rust all over you.
These are wild card playoff teams that we're talking about. Lower seeds. They need to keep the momentum going. That you will not see him rest.
I definitely think you could. I definitely think you could take this one off. But the problem is, and here's the problem. Because they're likely to finish 4th behind the Chiefs, they might decide that they would rather play a team like the Steelers in the next round. So maybe that keeps them playing hard.
Yeah, maybe.
So we'll see. Again, a lot of it depends on where these results land.
Yeah.
It's all hypothetical until next week.
So you picking the Saints?
I am picking the Saints against the Titans. I think they just have too much firepower. They have too much going on defense for them. Even though I think the Titans will keep this one close. I think it's going to be a battle. I think the Titans lose a close battle here in Nashville, and then we'll talk about what are their chances of getting in, and what if this happens, then that, and everything else. They're going to be one of those teams on the bubble for next week.
All right, let's move on to the next game. The Carolina Panthers go on the road against the Indianapolis Colts.
And I'm with Chris. It's going to be a close game in the Saints-Titans. Ian says he's ready. He would love some snow for the Steelers game. It's going to be a good one. Let's talk about our next one. Panthers versus Colts. Both these teams out of the running. Tough. And like you said, it's Will Grier time for the Carolina Panthers.
It's time to see what you got in that young kid, especially moving forward into the future of the Carolina Panthers. You need to know, do you hold on to Cam? Or do you have 2 reasonable quarterbacks that you could possibly let Cam go and see what the future holds for these 2 players? This is a great opportunity. I think the Colts are still going to be playing tough. I think this defense is going to play tough. I mean, yes, postseason for both these teams are long gone, but now it's job time. Do you want a job next year? Do you want a job with this team? Do you want a job with some other team? Do you want to get paid? Because when you take games off, this is when you start not getting paid. Will Grier has a great opportunity. I think it's going to be a lot of Christian McCaffrey, so you should see a lot of cheating up defenses where they're worried about the run game. You should see some passing lanes. If this guy is as good as we thought he was going to be.
Well, let's not forget, our fan mock draft from last season had this as the number 1 overall pick in the draft.
That is very true.
It's time to show it.
It's time to show it. Oh, man, this is a tough game.
It's a very tough one to call because, again, you don't know who's playing for what. I think Frank Reich, at the very least, I've said it all season long. I don't know that the Texans are that talented of a team, but I think they have one of the best motivated teams when it comes to Frank Reich and where he has these players. And I think that might be the difference here. I'll go first. You've gone first a couple times before. I think the Colts win here. And the reason I'll say that is because I think the Colts, they've had a couple bad results. They got embarrassed by the Saints. I mean, Drew Brees had a career night against them last week. I think we're going to get a little bit of the bounce back factor where they're like, hey, we're not a bad team. We don't deserve to have Drew Brees treat us like that, and they're going to take it out on the Panthers. And a first-time start out of a rookie quarterback at home, I like the Colts in this one.
Jerry, good to see you. He says, go Lions. I want to lean towards the Panthers so bad. And I you know what? I'm doing it. I was going to take the Colts.
Go ahead, I'm going to reload. Tell me why.
I was going to take the Colts, but just because you took them, I'm going to pick different. I'm going to believe in when I saw during the offseason this last summer was Will Grier, in my opinion, was a first-round quarterback. He could have been taken just as well as anybody else. I still believe in him. I think he can win games for teams. It's going to be tough. It's his first career start, but I think with a great run game, like I said, you're going to see open lanes throwing the ball. I think he's going to have a great opportunity to win a game. I'm going to take the Carolina Panthers to win this game.
Even though I like Will Grier, and again, I had him as a first-round pick myself. I think I had him at pick 31 or 32. I just don't see it in the first start on the road with a team that even though I like DJ Moore and what he's done, I just don't see the passing weapons. You can have it if you want it. Sorry.
Thank you, sir.
I was waiting for you to be ready. I just don't see Will Grier having the first career start to win this game. So I think the Colts win a tight one here, but I still think they win it. Christian McCaffrey is still the X factor. If he can light it up, the Panthers will win it.
Yeah.
But
hey, I'm gonna just go.
And the Panthers don't believe in shelf life.
I'm gonna go for everything I said about that kid during the offseason.
What you said about Derrick Henry, even though they're out of it, the Panthers are saying the exact same thing about Christian McCaffrey this week. They're like, go kill him. I don't care. Put him out there, 38 touches. Does not matter to me. So it'll be an interesting game for sure, even though it doesn't have the same kind of impact. At this point, they're playing for draft picks.
Right. Damien says the Saints win by a field goal kick. I'll tell you right now, the Titans don't want to get in a kicking competition. Well,
they did get rid of Suck, or they're going to IR Suck Up. They got rid of Santoso. They signed someone formerly of the Cleveland.
They are the worst kicking team since like '83, I think.
Since the Chargers, the last time we looked at them.
44% of their field goals have gone through the uprights.
Yeah, it's been tough. And it's another reason why they're probably not going to make the playoffs.
Do not want to be in a kicking competition. Anyways, let's move forward. You got
especially against Will Lutz.
You got the Bengals going on the road to face the Dolphins.
Damien's saying the Colts will also win in OT. I don't know if they get to OT. I think this game is going to be over. I think one of these teams wins it before it's over. I really do.
Yeah, it's a good possibility. You got savvy veterans playing. You got Andy Dalton. You got Ryan Fitzpatrick. I know Brian Flores got a little bit of slack about having Ryan Fitzpatrick still playing. Do you see this game being worth a watch? Yeah, it's for arguably the number one pick overall. But
the Dolphins have 3 wins. The Bengals have 1.
I get it.
It's the only when they lose this one,
the Bengals could win Week 17.
Exactly. When they lose this one, the Bengals will have Joe Burrow. It's done and dusted.
Right,
and that's it. Game over. I'm sorry for Joe Burrow, but he's stuck in Cincinnati now.
Do you see this being a fun game to watch?
No,
not at all.
You
don't think it could be a shootout?
I really thought going into this week we would have seen more kind of drama going into this game. But even now, the Bengals have to go and upset somebody next week as well for this game to matter at all. I think the Bengals are already locked up the first-round pick. I think they're going to lose this one. They're not playing as well as the Dolphins are. But even if they win it, they're probably not winning Week 17 against the Browns either. I think they play the Browns again in 17. But you look at this game, Drew, I don't think it's going to matter. I think either one of these teams with a loss doesn't really help them. The Dolphins could theoretically win this game and then move beyond teams like the Redskins or the Giants, but more than likely, I just don't see it happening. I think the Dolphins are going to win it comfortably.
Well, Ian says Miami's going to win. Cincinnati's playing for the first overall pick, so that means they're not playing. When you say they're playing.
Exactly. Well, they've already got it. Cincinnati's got I mean, they've played better, to be fair, these past couple weeks, but that was only happened after they got the cushion.
They could win this game and next week and then...
And lose the first-round pick to the Dolphins, if the Dolphins lose out. But the Dolphins... It's going to take all kinds of weird math for anyone to get the first-round pick.
They don't have it.
It's going to take a lot of weird math for anyone not named Cincinnati to have the first overall pick.
But it could slip through their fingers.
Okay, so on Sunday's show, when I come on here, we're going to be talking about how the Bengals have the first overall pick, okay? It's just going to happen. I'm taking the Dolphins. I don't love this pick. I think Ryan Fitzpatrick, you're saying, people were giving flack to Brian Flores for playing him, but he's been the better quarterback. You've seen some decent performances out of a terribly under-talented roster with Ryan Fitzpatrick. There's no reason to not play the best guy. I know Josh Rosen's been dealt a bad hand, but play better, and you don't get dealt that hand.
Ian says if you pay more than $5 a ticket for this game, you got ripped off.
I think if you go, you just...
And Scott says it looks like Burrows is going to try to get another year in college.
Oh, man. I don't know. Again,
no.
You're going to be the first overall pick.
He'll take it. It is what it is.
What happens if your knee snaps and you don't get that draft pick anymore and you're a 6th-round pick instead of a first? He's going. He's leaving. You can't have a better year than he's had in college football.
It is what it is.
Especially if they win the national championship. So maybe they don't, and maybe he's like, oh, well, I need to stick around and win a national championship so I don't play for Cincinnati. But, man, he's going to be wearing stripes next year.
It's the NFL. They all want to go, regardless if it's the Bengals. Deep down inside in their minds, they're sitting there going, man, why Cincinnati? But they'll never outwardly speak it anymore. They won't be like Eli Manning, mad that he got drafted by San Diego. It's not like that anymore. Draft picks no longer really have any kind of
leverage
to stand on. So he's going to be a Cincinnati Bengal because I also believe that Miami's going to win this game.
The other thing I will say is maybe just maybe someone falls into the Tua Tagovailoa trap. And it's not that I think he's a bad quarterback, but I think you have to go with the guy who's healthy. And
Miami.
I think Joe Burrow is that guy, especially with the way he's played. So, again, Miami could very well draft Tua with the 4th overall pick or 5th overall pick, wherever they wind up drafting. But this is going to be an important game because especially if the Lions lose, Miami could go all the way up to the 5th overall pick. And when we watched them start this season, was anyone calling that at all ever? No. Everyone's like, this team's going to have Joe Burrow or Tua Tagovailoa before the season started.
Yeah.
We were also saying Jake Fromm back then, too, but we're saying that less now. And I know you still like him. I do, too. But he's not better than anyone else in this class.
I don't even think he'll be a top 10, but I think he could arguably be the best quarterback out of this draft.
He might land in the best spot, and sometimes that's all that matters.
That's all that matters.
Exactly.
Yeah. Let's move on to the next game.
Dolphins?
Yes.
Dolphins.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's move on to the next game as I read Damon's comments. It says, does it really matter to tank anymore? I mean, Tua is possibly out already, so why tank for the number 1 pick? Just saying.
Well, because you want Joe Burrow and because you want your quarterback. Tua, even though he's very good, has had 5 injuries or so in 2 years of college football. He's broken a finger. He's had surgery on both ankles in separate. Somebody's looking for you.
Yeah.
Someone's broken ankles. He's had surgery on both ankles from severe injuries. He's done something to his hip, and I think there's one more I'm missing in there. It's been less than 2 years, and he's had 5 significant injuries.
Anything wrong with his shoulders?
No, it hasn't been upper body. It's been mostly legs, but still.
Just be a pocket pass.
You'll just put him in a wheelchair and let him throw out there.
There you go.
But no, when you look at Tua, he is got to be the most worrisome prospect ever. Because when he's out there, he looks really good. And then when he's not, you're like, oh, he's hurt again. And usually, when you look at guys injured in college, they have injury problems in the pros. So he's going to be one of the most interesting guys to look forward to. We'll talk about that more all offseason. I promise you, all the way until April, we're going to be talking about where does this guy go.
So let's get into the next game where the Pittsburgh Steelers go on the road to face the New York Jets. Duck Hodges is going to be playing.
And he should be. I still think he gives them the best chance to win over someone like Mason Rudolph.
Yeah.
I wasn't crazy about last week with the 4 interceptions, but I think the last 2 were like desperation picks where you're like, something's got to happen in this moment or we lose the game.
Right.
And you just lob the ball up there.
Exactly.
Beyond that, look, the Steelers need this one, right? And supposedly the Jets aren't playing for anything, but...
And talk about the Jets where they're literally... I don't want to call them a dumpster fire, but no one is playing for anything right now. I can't even sit there and say the Jets are playing for their head coach because they already said Adam Gase is coming back.
Right.
They're not playing for the jobs because most of the starters or people that have any kind of talent are locked in as the Jets for the next year. So beyond some a release of their schedule, their contract, all these players are coming back. To be honest, the Jets aren't playing for anything. The Steelers are. As much as I agree with you that the run game is what the Steelers are going to lean on, and the Jets are good at stopping it, I still see the Steelers winning this game. I think Tomlin's going to rally this team around Hodges, and they're going to beat a game. They're going to beat a team like the Jets.
Freddie says we rock, man. No, you rock for being here with us. We appreciate you hanging with us on a Friday. I know you could be out there doing other stuff, but we appreciate you hanging around talking football with us, Freddie, and everyone else too. Ian says the Steelers' defense is going to step up in this game. Duck hopefully learned some things from last week. There will be a lot of terrible towels waving. Again, I think tickets will be easy to come by there in at the New Meadowlands or whatever they call it. It's not MetLife Stadium anymore. I don't know. I forget. I try to keep track of all the stadiums, but it's too many and I'm dumb.
Play?
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be tough out there in New York for the Gang Green to show up, but you never know. They're one of those franchises that, again, they're kind of like Cleveland, where it doesn't seem to matter how bad the team is. They're always stepping up to the plate for them. So, as for terrible towels waving, if you want tickets, you can probably get in the gates. Beyond that, I don't know how many we're going to see. I will say this about the Steelers, though. The Steelers, if they were a weaker defense, I would pick the Jets in the upset. But we have seen Sam Darnold and, by extension, the rest of this offense struggle mightily with the good defenses. They've upset teams with the bad ones, and then they've gone up against the good defenses and they haven't had it. So, on another week, I'd say Sam Darnold has the talent and he can do something to kind of upset a playoff team like this. But with this defense, it's not going to happen. Even if the run game gets stopped, I'll take the Steelers to win 6-3 if that's what it takes. I think the Steelers will have just whatever it takes to win this game. This one specifically. Next week's the real test against the Ravens.
Absolutely. Let's go on to the next game. We got the New York Giants going on the road to face the Washington Redskins. It is a battle of rookies. You get Daniel Jones back at helm in the Giants uniform. I don't want to sit there and say there's nothing to talk about, but when you talk about these two teams, you look at them offensively because I think that's what's going to matter the most during these games. And there's more weapons in the New York Giants uniforms than there is Washington Redskins. I know you got McLaurin who looks like a stud of a wide receiver. I know Haskins came off probably arguably his best game. I think it was last week. If not, it was 2 weeks ago. He's looking like he might be decent at this point, but with Daniel Jones with more experience underneath his belt, better weapons, it's the Giants that win this game.
I'm going to go the other direction. I think the Redskins have been playing better ball than the Giants have as a team. Now, I think the defense has stepped up. They played teams like the Packers kind of tough here lately. They played the Eagles tough last week. I think the Redskins get the win here, and it's going to be ugly. I think regardless, either one of these teams is going to be ugly. But when you said there's nothing to play for, I think there's a lot to play for because I think if the Giants win this one, they will jump the Redskins in terms of draft order, or the Redskins will jump them, however you want to talk about it. I think the Redskins get the better pick if they lose it, but I think they win here. I do. I think the defense has played with Bill Callahan a little bit better here these past couple weeks. I think the offense has done a little bit on the ground. I'm just going to bet on Daniel Jones coming back from an injury, being a young quarterback, playing on the road, losing in what should be a pretty even matchup. It's going to be interesting. That's all I can say. It's going to be an interesting matchup, and there's more to play here because of the draft pick.
Right.
I think outside of that, there's not a whole lot you're looking forward to except maybe the two young quarterbacks that were drafted together matching up head-to-head, but we'll see. Honestly, I think the most important thing here is I want to see Dwayne Haskins have a halfway decent game against a very weak secondary, against a very weak defense in general. Because if he doesn't, and you're picked like 2 or 3 or 4 like the Redskins are likely to be, and there's some quarterbacks up there, it's going to be very tempting for them to go and pull the trigger and just move on from Dwayne Haskins after 1 year. I mean,
as a new head coach coming in, I think it's a good possibility they're going to be looking for a quarterback anyways, regardless of whatever Dwayne Haskins does for the rest of the year. Makes no difference in my opinion. I do agree with you. The Redskins are playing better. I like the way that their defense is playing. I like the Adrian Peterson and his, again, fountain of youth where the guys just running the ball over the place. I just believe the Giants have better weapons, which is what's going to make the difference in this game. Scott says, can both teams lose? This is how he feels about this game.
I mean, even if they did, they'd both improve their draft pick stock.
And I
think that's what the GM might be saying.
But you don't play for draft picks. You don't play for draft picks.
Yes, but the GM at this point was saying...
That's why I'm
sure.
That's why I'm saying is... there is nothing to play for.
You're the coach of the show, Drew. I'm the GM of the show. You're saying you don't play for draft picks, and I'm sitting here saying, but wouldn't it be nice if we had that second overall pick and I could trade it for someone who wants a quarterback, or I could take 2 of myself if I'm the Redskins. I don't think Danny Dimes is going anywhere. Daniel Jones is staying right where he is in New York. But you could either take Chase Young, or you could trade that pick to whoever's 3rd or 4th or 5th. And go and get a haul of draft picks. So yes, while the coaches are saying we're not playing for our draft picks, I guarantee you the GMs are like, I would really like to have more assets. So again, I understand what you're saying. Damien also says he would rather have Tua more than Mitch Trubisky, even though he's an injury-prone quarterback, but at least he's a better quarterback than Trubisky. Yes, but how much do you like Chase Daniel? That's all I can say, because Tua right now, the way he's been hurt, Chase Daniel's going to be spending more time in the field for you than he would be. So let me ask you that. I'm sure you complain when Chase Daniel steps on the field. I know Bears fans. They don't love Chase, and rightfully so. That's who you'd be seeing 10 weeks out of the year, and then you'd be telling me how much of a bum Tua is. So I think more than anything...
Trubisky will still be there.
I think, yes, he will. And more than anything, if you're going to draft Tua, you got to make sure that offensive line's right. With all the injuries he's had, you can't let this guy get hit by NFL-caliber players. Okay, that's it. I won't get too far off track. I'll rein it back in. I'm going to take the Redskins. You're taking the Giants.
Correct.
It's going to be an interesting week, and this will be hilarious if this is what the season hinges on, is who's right in this game that matters literally none.
And Freddie says the Bengals need a good quarterback from next year.
Burrow,
yes.
baby.
Yes, they do.
It's going to be Burrow. Like, it would take a domestic violence / sex scandal from Joe Burrow. Maybe both of those things.
Or a gas mask bong hit.
No, I think the gas mask bong hits, and you're still like, but he can throw the ball. It's a quarterback. It's not an offensive lineman.
Let's move on to the next game. We got the Detroit Lions going up into a tough place to play in Mile High in Denver against the Broncos, where Drew Lock is getting a lot of attention for his play. Yeah, it was tough last week in the snow against a stingy, just recently, Kansas City defense. Is this a game for him to come out and again kind of say, I'm your starter for next year against a Lions team who is definitely not playing for anything? Don't tell me they're playing for something now. They're for sure not playing for anything. Matt Patricia's not going anywhere. They're not playing for. They're not necessarily playing for a draft pick spot because you already got
You got the tie, and you're gonna lose all those tiebreakers.
Exactly.
And you said that wasn't important. I told you it was going to be important. Except it's working against the Lions. I'll say this about the Lions, though. I like the mentality. This is a team that could have quit weeks and weeks and weeks ago, and yet they have battled in almost every game they've been in. They haven't won a lot of them, but they've been in almost every one of them. Until like a week or two ago, they've led every single game, and that just doesn't happen when you have a 3-win record. I look at this Lions team, and they're 3-10-1 right now, Drew, even though I don't love them. I think they're going to battle the Broncos. I just think the Broncos are going to win it. I'm going to go with momentum. I'm going to say at home, Broncos win. Drew Lock, even though I don't love him, I think he's a guy that is going to have enough success against his secondary where it's not going to matter.
Yeah, I'm also going to pick the Giants to win. Just Mile High is just a
the
tough
Broncos.
place.
You said Giants. The Broncos.
Yeah, the Broncos. I'm going to also pick them to win because it's just a tough place to play in Mile High for sure. Jonathan says, Eagles game closes down to how Wentz and Prescott play. If we can stop Elliott,
in his opinion,
the Eagles will come in more hyped and Prescott is hurt.
I think it comes down to what is that secondary going to look like against Amari Cooper and company. And Gallup's stepped up. It's not just Amari Cooper anymore, even though it's kind of still Amari Cooper.
Yeah.
Right? The best days when Amari Cooper is just lighting up the scoreboard. We'll talk about that game here in just a second. We'll get right to it. We're almost there,
jumping ahead, man. But
we're almost there.
When it comes to any games, you're 100% right. It's all about quarterback play, no doubt about it. Freddie says he hopes the Broncos win and beat the Lions.
I think they can. I definitely think they can. I think it's important for them too because again, Drew Lock as a second-round pick is looking at this like this is my moment to make an impression. If you're not married to a first-round pick, and I said you could move on from someone like Dwayne Haskins, you better believe the Broncos can go and find a new quarterback if a guy falls into their lap in this draft.
Damon says the Lions are like the 2019 version of the Lion King. Crap. Oh man. Let's go to the next game. We got the Oakland Raiders going into LA to face the Chargers. They laid a dud. They laid a dud against the Jaguars. I mean, we both picked the Raiders to win that game.
No, I took the Jaguars.
Oh, that's right. You wanted to pick the Raiders.
I dunked on you in that one. I just knew it, Drew.
You switched.
Actually, I'm kidding. As soon as it was 16-3, I was like, well, that's it for Jacksonville.
That's right. Come on. You admit that the Raiders were going to win that game. And then just because I picked him, you had to change it. I think that's what happened.
No, I was all Jacksonville. I was like, I just don't know. I was like, I don't love either of these teams, and I had taken a bunch of upsets.
Did you hit your head when you went to bed last night?
No, it was the stash.
It
was the stash. Remember how much crap you gave me for saying Gardner Minshew's not good? I was like, well, with him coming back, he's going to have something to prove.
Didn't he, at your house?
No, he didn't.
That guy
does I've been waiting on it.
Right.
But I will say this about Gardner Minshew. He has enough talent that when he's like pissed off for greatness and he's trying to go out there and lay down the best game he can, you're gonna get results like that, even on a team like that underachieves like the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's not totally bereft of talent, and I wasn't trying to ever say he was, but I also think people were kind of overhyping him.
The exact words, he is bereft of talent, came out of your mouth.
Exactly. But I think people were overhyping him because everyone was like, oh, he's the next greatest quarterback to ever come out of the draft in the 6th round and everything. And even before the draft, I was like, this is a guy that's a great rhythm passer.
Tom Brady Jr.
I'm going to pull up the
clip.
clip.
Know about that either?
I'm going to pull up the clip where I said Minshew is a great rhythm passer to have as your backup quarterback. And I still think that's where he's at. Then again, what are we talking about? Are we still talking about last week?
I don't know. I
just know you upset me. That's all I know.
Let's talk about the Oakland Raiders against the Chargers. What is this? What are these teams playing for? These are division rivals. They're both out of the playoffs. You got Phillip Rivers, who looks like
they might draft a quarterback.
He's got 1 foot in the grave. You got Derek Carr, who's 1 foot out the door because they might leave him as quarterback and go a different direction in Oakland. I mean, are these two quarterbacks playing for their jobs for next year?
I think Phillip Rivers more than Derek Carr, yes, because even though the Raiders could escape that contract, it won't be like it'll be an ugly breakup. It'll be that one where they're both fighting with each other afterwards. They're talking about who gets possession of the dogs and everything else. They're going to take a massive cap hit even next year to cut Derek Carr. I think he's definitely much safer than Phillip Rivers is, because Phillip Rivers at this age, you go draft a young man and all of a sudden, Phillip, he needs time. He needs some field work. I need to see him in a game.
Who do you got in this game?
Oh, You would ask me first. The Chargers, I guess, because I believe in the talent they should have, even though I think the Raiders might bounce back, and they'll probably be embarrassed, right? After last week, you lose the last game at home that you may ever have in LA, or in Oakland, even though I think somehow magically the stadium still won't be finished and they'll be there another year, but you never know.
I'm really surprised. I honestly thought you were going to take the Raiders in this. I'm also taking the Chargers. Even though this stadium is going to be full of black and silver, I think I agree with you. Even my whole point to the two quarterbacks is who has more to play for, and I think it's Phillip Rivers. I think he has more to play for than Derek Carr at this point.
I agree. Outside of that, again, Gruden's not going anywhere. I think Anthony Lynn is safe as well for what he did last year with the Chargers. They're going to look at it and say, oh, we were just unfortunate that everybody got hurt. And I don't think all of that's Anthony Lynn's fault. I think more than anything, it's roster-wise. They need an offensive line for the first time in 15 years. But that's still not going to be fixed next year either. When I look at this game, I say, who do I believe in having just a little bit of the X factor? I'm going to say Phillip Rivers. Cowboys and Eagles.
Let's do it.
Let's talk about how this game is one of these teams is going to find their way into the playoffs. Can we talk about that?
Yeah.
Is that fair? Is that right? Is this how the NFL works?
Whoever wins this game gets in the playoffs.
Pretty much. The Eagles could lose Week 17. The Cowboys could win Week 17, and then the Cowboys would have the better record. But the Eagles, if they win, have the tiebreaker. All they have to do is take care of business Week 17. They're in. And then the Cowboys, you talk about the reverse of that. All they have to do is win this game, and pretty much the Eagles, I think at that point, are mathematically eliminated. They'll be 2 games behind with 1 to go. So this is for the playoffs for both of these teams, essentially. Even though the Cowboys have more outs than a team like the Eagles do, whoever wins this, I'd say 80% of the time, finds their way into the playoffs. It's important. This is one of the biggest games of the week.
Yeah.
Even though both these teams, outside of last week for the Cowboys, have not looked good this past month.
Right. No, I'm right there with you. Ray says, I don't know about y'all, but this week NFL games is about to be a low ratings, only about 4 games he is willing to watch.
Well, it's because last week was so important and so pivotal, like I told you.
Yeah.
Like every week I tell you that, but 15 was like the culmination of that.
David says the Eagles and Cowboys game will end in a draw.
At that point, I think the Cowboys would take that because they're saying we still have the half game advantage on the Eagles or whatever it would be at that point, or the game advantage on the Eagles at that point.
Hey, Freddie, we didn't mean to ignore your comment earlier. We went into NASCAR in our last episode.
I think Jimmy Johnson is returning to the 48 next year. I know what you're talking about, but I think Jimmy Johnson has 1 more year that he's going to race full time, and that'll be it. I think he's going to say a goodbye tour, kind of Jeff Gordon-esque.
When I say we talked, Jake talked in tons about that. You can get into that episode and check it out and get his feels, because for sure Jimmy Johnson was talked about.
He also wants to know who we think will win the Super Bowl. I think it's too early because 2 weeks from now, these teams could take 1 injury. Lamar Jackson could get hurt. Jimmy G could get hurt. Any one of these teams could take a bad injury, and all that flies out the window. Right now, I think I still like the 49ers. And as crazy as it sounds, I think the Saints are my second close team. I think when those teams play, most likely in the NFC Championship, it's going to be the Super Bowl. Even though I like the Ravens, you just don't see young quarterbacks win it a lot. So I think they're probably going to be a year or 2 before they're mature enough where they're going to win with Lamar Jackson.
Jonathan is going go Eagles. He's picking 26-14 for the Eagles to win. Jonathan, I got to go against you, man. I don't like either one of these teams. The Eagles are so banged up. You're not going to get.
They have no receivers. They have no secondary. I got to agree. Is
his name Greg Ward? He's not going to. Yeah. He's not going to be amazing every week in and week out. That's the reason why he sat without starting games until everyone was injured. It's the Cowboys' game to win or lose. And even if the Eagles somehow pull a miracle and win, I still think the Cowboys can possibly still get in there. It's the Cowboys, man. I don't like Cowboys. To be honest with you, I'd prefer it to be the Eagles to get in there because I like Doug Peterson and I like him as a coach and I like Carson Wentz and I want to see that team succeed, but it's not looking pretty. I got to pick the Cowboys.
And Chris says the 49ers versus Ravens rematch in the Super Bowl. I'm going to say this. Don't sleep on the Chiefs in the AFC. And God forbid this actually happens and it comes to fruition because I don't want to listen to Drew tell me how amazing his team is when my team doesn't even make the playoffs. But I think we might be in for that. I think, again, people are sleeping on the Chiefs because they haven't played their best football during the regular season. if they come alive, I think the Chiefs could absolutely upset the Ravens. I think the Chiefs are kind of the forgotten team out of the AFC that could still be elite. As for the NFC, I mean, Seahawks, 49ers, Saints. There are so many great teams. Packers, I don't want to leave them out. The Vikings, I think, are a great team. It could be anyone. It's anyone's race. I really believe that. Even though I like the 49ers, you got to be great for 4 straight weeks. And that's hard to do. Or 4 and 3, and then you get a break, and then the 4th week you got to be great there too.
Right.
It's going to be tough for the 49ers. That's all I can say. Anyone is going to have a hard ride in the NFC.
Yeah.
That's almost a coin toss. Like, there's no team going into the playoffs of the NFC that I'm like, they're not going to win. Or they don't have a chance to win.
Yep.
Except maybe the Cowboys.
Cowboys?
I am going to take the Cowboys too, even though I think this is going to be a dogfight. I think the Eagles are going to lay it all on the line here. I'm kind of with Jonathan here.
Yeah.
Saying that the Eagles are going to come out here and battle in this game. I think it's going to be 24-22. If I had to put a score on the board, I think they're going to battle a little bit. The secondary will play a little bit better than we've seen. They'll harass the Cowboys, but I think the Cowboys know what this game means too. And I think Jason Garrett knows his career's on the line as well. I think the Cowboys are in better shape right now. That's all. If the Eagles had a little bit healthier wide receiving core, I'd say maybe they can outshoot them.
Alshon Jeffrey. If they had a Jordan
Nelson
Howard,
Aguilar,
I would sit there and go, "Oh, Eagles are going to win this game." But I can't do it. I can't do it.
I'm with you. I got to go Cowboys here. There's too many injuries for the Eagles.
Let's move on to the next game. We got the Arizona Cardinals going against the Seattle Seahawks. In division rival. Maybe the Cardinals kind of want to upset the Seahawks and say, "Hey, you're not going to get that number 1 seed."
Good to see you, George.
But do you see the Seahawks losing a game like this in Seattle with a 12th man yelling? I can't pick anybody but Russell Wilson and this run game that Chris Carson and him create against a defense that now doesn't have Terrell Suggs. They're looking into next year.
The Cardinals quit. Kind of like I said, the Lions were quitting. The Cardinals quit, and they just let everybody go at the end of the season because they wanted to save a little bit of money because they're a bad organization. That's not what you do. It's even though you've got expiring contracts, everything else, you keep your players in-house and you set the record straight that, hey, we play to the buzzer. We play to the whistle. I know maybe they're taking my game theory standpoint and saying, oh, we do better when we have the better pick, but I don't love cutting all the great players that are expiring on deals.
No, I agree with you. Jamin, good to see you, man. No, he did not forget about the Chiefs. He said, Chiefs forgotten. It's about every cannot talk commentary and
just about every commentary and sports analysis are picking the Chiefs that he's seen. Because everyone to me is picking the Ravens. Everyone I listen to is like, the Ravens are running away with this. It's not even a contest. Why play the games? And I'm like, okay, so you're going to get the Patriots in the playoffs. You're going to get the Chiefs in the playoffs.
You're not ignoring them because and you're not even a Chiefs fan, and you have arguably sat here and fought for the Chiefs being the number 1 ranked team in the AFC.
And it's killed me every step of the way. But no, I'm being real, though.
You're not ignoring it, but let's talk about the teams that are really hot right now. Yes, the Chiefs look good defensively. They're talking about the lowest amount of points giving up in the last 4 games, 11 points per game. Everyone's talking about that, but that's not what the Chiefs been like. The Raiders,
and I don't think you expect that to continue.
The Ravens, ever since week 3, have been on this hot streak, and there's literally no team stopping them. So when you talk about streaky teams, because that's what you're bringing up, that's the most important thing to talk about. I am a Chiefs fan. I absolutely think the Chiefs can make it to the Super Bowl. But when you talk about teams that are right now ready to win a Super Bowl, I'd give it to the Ravens over the Chiefs, and I don't even want to say that.
And George wants to know our picks for the Saints and Titans. We both picked the Saints, and even though I'm a Titans fan, I got to be realistic here. With the offensive line beat up for the Titans, our secondary beat up as well. If they had everybody healthy, I'd say the Titans are going to upset the Saints here at home. With all the injuries they've had, Derrick Henry's not going to be 100% for sure, but he might play in this game. I think the Saints are going to win it. You look at the way they looked last week, even with the injuries against Indianapolis, who the Titans, let's face it, struggled with twice this year. I just don't see it, man. I think the Saints are going to need that first overall that first playoff berth. They want that first seed, and I think they're going to go into this game hungry enough that the Titans, even though they're going to battle, I think the Titans lose as a close one here. Going back to what you said about the Chiefs just real quick, if I can kind of put my final stamp on it, I have no dog in that fight. The Chiefs could lose in the first round, and it's not going to break my heart, but I think people are going to sleep on just how dynamic this offense can still be, and in the playoffs, that's all it takes. You need one side of the ball to play absolutely well, whether it's the defense or the offense. I think we're underestimating how good the Chiefs team can be, and I've said that forever. Yeah. Even when everyone was telling me during the season that the Chiefs aren't one of the best teams because they were losing some games. It's easy for these great teams to go into some games and not put 100% out.
What was asked to you was who was your Super Bowl favorites, and you sat there and brought it up. I don't think you purposely ignored the Chiefs. Is my point, and I was defending.
Before that, I was saying that people are sleeping on the Chiefs, and I think that's what he was saying. I think when I said that people are sleeping on the Chiefs, and Jamin said that he's seen people take the Chiefs all over the board. I haven't seen that.
Oh, okay.
Everyone to me has been taking the Ravens. And I'm still pounding the war drum saying, look, I know they played during the regular season and it was a close game, but man, you get to playoff football and you have a second-year quarterback, and both of these guys are young, Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. I'm going to take the guy that's been there and done that, and so far, that's Patrick Mahomes. The Ravens made the playoffs last year, but bounced out in a one and done. Patrick Mahomes is a second-year quarterback that realistically, that was his first year starting, made it to an AFC championship. That's more pressure he's going to be used to. I think people are sleeping on the Chiefs. I do.
I hope so. I hope they get a Super Bowl.
I don't, because again, you're going to be insufferable if you have more Super Bowls than my team does. That's it. That's all I know. You're going to be impossible to listen to if that happens. But you know what? As we're friends, I hope that happens for you too. How about that?
Scott saying Andy Reid will win a game or two in the playoffs before they fizzle out.
I don't know. Maybe this is the year. Maybe this is the year, Scott. That's all I can say. Again, those trends, you keep going, and eventually good things happen for you. That's all I can say.
Freddie says his basketball team will play its first game this year, and his favorite team in the NBA is the Warriors.
Well, I don't want to say I'm sorry for you because you've had so many great times here lately, Freddie, but I'll say this. This year is basically just the get healthy year. I know Steph Curry probably could come back if he wanted to. He's not going to, and I think that's best. Just rest him up, get Klay Thompson back healthy. You still got Draymond. See what you can do after that, because I still think they're the team, one of the few teams in the NBA that has 3 legitimate top-tier talent players on them. I still think they could be the team to beat when they come back. Even though the Lakers look great, even though the Clippers look great, there's not a legit top 3 out there.
Another comment before we do our final thoughts. Chris says, it would be interesting the Chiefs eliminating the Ravens. It's so possible. Yeah, and they beat them already this year, too.
Yeah.
Let's not forget that.
I agree. And even though that was a close game, and this time it'll be on the road, if I remember right. Didn't they play that one in Kansas City? Do you remember? I think that one was in Kansas City, but I don't remember. It's going to be a great game. And I think those are the 2 teams to beat in the AFC, and it's not even close. I think the Patriots, when you look, maybe they can surprise some teams. Maybe they get hot, everything else, and maybe I'm the one giving up on them too quick. I just don't see it happening this quick for or this year for them. I think those are the 2 toughest teams by far in the AFC, and you have a couple that might surprise people, like Buffalo, like Tennessee, like Houston. I think those are teams that maybe they have a good game or 2 in the playoffs, but I don't see anyone outside the Chiefs or the Ravens going forward for the win.
Is that your final thought?
That could be my final thought.
Well, I mean, I'll give you another one. I'm just saying. Oh, no, his team is called the Warriors. Freddie, I'm so sorry, man. So your team that you play on is called the Warriors, man. Good luck in your first game. I'm sorry I misread your comment, man. Good luck, man. I hope
go drop that double-double for us. You can do that.
Yeah,
well, I know this. I'm trying not to set the bar too high. Give me a double-double here.
We set it high, and then we slowly
points, rebounds. That's all we're asking for. Don't assist. I want you out there like Kobe. You catch the ball, you shoot it. Okay? That's all I want. That's what I want you to do. Then go in there and get your own rebound.
My final thoughts is I know some of you guys say there's no games worth watching. I think there's plenty of games worth watching. I think even the games that no one wants to talk about, like the Bengals, the
Broncos,
Dolphins,
Lions, is going to be a barn burner.
That one might not be worth watching, but the Bengals and Dolphins might be worth watching. You're talking about 2 savvy veterans trying to play some ball, and who knows what could happen in a game like that.
2 first-year head coaches that might be feeling a little bit of a hotter seat than they need to be.
Absolutely.
2 teams looking for high draft picks.
Exactly.
2 teams looking for new quarterbacks. There's a lot going on.
And as the words of the great Jake here, we'll know more about these teams after this week.
I don't think that's true, actually. I think they are who we thought they were now. I'm going to quote Dennis Green. They are who they thought we thought they
Dennis
were.
Green.
Yes. We know who they are now. That's all I can say. Week 15 was that pivotal kind of turning point. I think now we have an idea, except for maybe a couple teams in the AFC, who's going and who's not.
Guys, thank you again for your likes, comments, and shares. It means the world to us. But I do want to give a special thanks out to everyone that I saw comment, and if I missed you, I'm sorry. But Michael, Ron, Will, Sean, Scott, Eric, Mark, Justin, Cass, Frank, Jonathan, Damon, Chris, Ian, John, Jerry, Freddie, Ray, George, Jamin. You guys are all awesome. Thank you so much. What?
It's kind of hard to keep track of all these names. I appreciate the job you do.
Dude, it's tough, man. It's tough.
Consummate professional as always. It was a fun show, guys. I had a lot of fun talking about some of these games that don't matter and some of them that do. Let's face it, it was a good show. I'm glad you guys stuck around with us despite a couple early tech issues and everything else. Show's always better when you're here. That's all I can say.
And my inability to speak.
Absolutely.
Yes, I appreciate it.
Happens to us all, man. Happens to the best of us. We'll be back on Sunday, 7:45 Eastern, 6:45 Central, to talk about all this action as well as the primetime games, which have a little bit more meaning than some of you think these games have. But I think we got some good ones on tap. I think the Chiefs, Bears, and Packers, Vikings will be fun to watch, if nothing else. We hope you can join us for that. So for Sports Around the Bar, I am Jake, your bartender. This is Drew. We will see you, hopefully, on Sunday.